This is a interesting story, I think. Teen Vogue, um, published by Condé Nast, uh, you know, as is Vogue, went all digital. They stopped making a printed magazine, um, and they hired the young woman on the left, her name was Alexi Mccammon, to be the editor, the head of all the content. The editor's in charge of the content. The publisher in a magazine is in charge of working with the advertisers. So Alexi Mccammon she's in her late 20s. She um, was a reporter in politics and current events. She was frequently on MSNBC, which I watched too much of, as a commentator on different things. I think she worked for Axios most recently, which is a political news gathering organization. So she was hired to be the editor of the online version of Teen Vogue in her late 20s. Great job. And then all of a sudden, after this was announced, it was found out that she had posted some anti-Asian comments on her Twitter account when she was 17 years old in high school. And actually, the people at Condé Nast knew that before they hired her. But what happened was that the staff at Teen Vogue got together and demanded that she be fired before she'd even have a chance really to start the job. She evidently had meetings with the staff. She apologized profusely. She said, I was in high school. I made a mistake. I want to learn and grow with you. But the staff ultimately wasn't having any of it, and so she was fired almost before she really started the job. And at the time, by the way, this was in 2021, but more towards the beginning of the year. Early spring, I think it was, this happened. There was a lot of anti-Asian bias. Asian people were being attacked for seemingly no reason. This might have been part of the, blaming. So this happened. Okay, so this might have been even longer ago than I thought. I apologize, everybody. Might have been during the Trump campaign. He was talking about the Kung flu and blaming China for the virus, etc., the COVID virus. They were anti-Asian attacks. So these anti-Asian comments kind of added fuel to that fire. And again, she was let go. It was really, it was cancel culture, right? She was not going to be forgiven for the statements that she made. And I discussed this with students in my audiences and media class, AC 271. One of the students said something so appropriate. She said, well, it's a teen magazine, and she made the mistakes when she was a teenager. Isn't part of being a teenager, making mistakes, but learning from them? And shouldn't we be accepting of that? And shouldn't Teen Vogue have been accepting of that? But anyway, it wasn't the case. Teen magazine in the middle of some controversy there. Gay magazines, lesbian magazines, trans magazine, college magazines. This is my coffee table. Some of the schools I went to and one that I work at now. You may recognize that magazine on the right. Is FIT's magazine called Hue. Not sold on newsstands, these magazines. These go right to alum or students. Adult magazines. Playboy. Starting in, I want to say, was it the late 50s, I think? Was it 50 cents? This guy, Hugh Hefner, returned from serving in World War II back to Chicago and scraped together the money to publish Playboy magazine. And he got hold of some nude photographs of Marilyn Monroe, which he put in the middle of the magazine, and off he went. Kind of a crazy ride. Marilyn Monroe nude. Penthouse magazine in the late 60s was more explicit with its female nudity. Cosmo magazine responded with a centerfold of the actor Burt Reynolds, who was pretty hot in those days, so to speak. So we've got adult magazines. This cat is named Larry Flynt. He was the publisher of Hustler magazine, which was more explicit even than Penthouse in terms of female nudity. And he's a guy who, I see the American flag behind him, he was shot after a court appearance. He was taken to court. He fought on behalf of freedom of speech that he could publish that magazine, and he was allowed to continue publishing the magazine. But someone shot him and put him in a wheelchair for the rest of his life. He became a pretty controversial character. He got involved with politics. I believe when Bill Clinton, former president, was dealing with the Monica Lewinsky scandal, and of course that's a young woman who's been treated very badly, by the way, I think, by the press even, back at the time when it was revealed that she had sexual relations with the president. I'm not sure she's ever had a chance to really recover from the bullying that she put up with. If you don't know about that case, you can Google Monica Lewinsky, and you can see her TED Talks also about sexual harassment and bullying, which are very smart and very good, very bright person. Anyway, in the midst of that controversy, Larry Flynt, publisher of Hustler magazine, if I recall correctly, offered $1 million for information about any congressmen who were having dalliances with interns or sex with outside of their marriage. And he uncovered a few things among the people who were prosecuting Bill Clinton. So, let he throw the first stone who is not living in a glass house himself. Anyway, interesting cat, Larry Flynt. I think he died very recently. And then, of course, hardcore magazines. Okay, obviously I'm not going to show you one of those, but they exist. Shifting gears, just a bit. Children's magazines, Boys Life, all Boy Scouts automatically got Boys Life. Children's Highlights, Scholastic, which was distributed actually right in schools, was a magazine. And maybe my favorite magazine of all time is Mad Magazine. 25 cents, cheap, 15 cents. That is Alfred E. Newman. If you don't know the character on the front, he is the spokesperson for Mad Magazine. And I can tell you that young Tommy Ely, at the age of 11 or 12, would get his exorbitant weekly allowance that he got for doing pretty much nothing. I think it might have been $5. And run down to the corner drugstore, hope there was a new edition of Mad Magazine. I think it came out every month. And spend 25 cents on that and the rest on candy. And then go home. Go to my bedroom, close the door, eat the candy, and read Mad Magazine. Cover to cover, laughing and giggling and chortling away the whole time. Very influential magazine, because there are lots of nerdy kids like me who also read it and had their senses of humor influenced. This is Pee Wee Herman. The character Pee Wee Herman, played by the actor Paul Reubens, reading Mad Magazine. He's on the cover, it looks like, which is pretty funny. Mad Magazine. A more adult, slightly more adult version of Mad Magazine is something called the National Lampoon, which I think came out of Harvard University. There was a Harvard Lampoon, and these guys and gals liked working together, so they went out and started publishing the National Lampoon. And some of the people who worked for the National Lampoon went on to do a lot of things in Hollywood, including producing National Lampoon's Animal House, which was at the time the highest grossing movie comedy in history. I don't know if you've seen it. Ivan Reitman was with the National Lampoon, and John Belushi was the famous star of that movie, who came to a sad end, ODing on drugs in Hollywood a few years later, as a very young man, sadly enough. So, insurrectionist magazines, local city magazines, and state magazines, another kind of magazine. And of course, there are magazines available in Spanish and many other languages. Lots of different magazines. If there's an interest, there's a magazine for it. This shows revenue source by year. The blue is how much magazine publishers made with advertising. The darker blue is subscriptions and sales. The gray is all other operating revenue. Printing services for others. So you see 2017 was a bad year for magazines. But you can see that the ad revenue is half or more than half of the revenue most years. You can also see the decline in revenue. Right, that's a big story. Decline in the ad revenue, particularly. Here's a magazine rate card. I just happened to Google magazine rate card. I got one for 17 magazine. This is how advertisers are charged. I want you to notice this middle column where it says circulation. Member of the Audited Bureau of Circulation. National distribution, published 10 times annually. Guaranteed rate base of 2 million. So they're saying that 2 million people will read the magazine. And then here are the rates for full page, 2/3 page, half page, third of a page. In color, in black and white. There are covers, second, third, fourth. 5% bleed charge means if your ad goes right to the edge of the magazine paper, that's called bleed. They charge extra for that. They do some regional ads. They do have the ability to sell regionally, but you pay extra for that. Now, closing and on sale dates. So, the February issue, this is way 2012, it's a long time ago. February issue for 2012 goes on sale January 10th, but all materials have to be ready by November 11th, 2 months before. Okay. Those are the lead times. That's why you don't see hot news in magazines. Almost all magazine spending is national. These are the configurations by pages. Of course, you can also buy multiple pages, have gatefolds, and do all kinds of creative things with your ad. I just wanted to show some of the best magazine ads ever written for Volkswagen. I mean, look at this. And then the text at the bottom. Our little car isn't so much of a novelty anymore. A couple of dozen college kids don't try to squeeze inside it. The guy at the gas station doesn't ask where the gas goes. Nobody else even stares at our shape. In fact, some people who drive our little whatever don't even think 32 miles to the gallon is any great gun. So I'm going to stop here and show you a couple more Volkswagen ads.